Okay, so this is the new boot camp template, and the way this works is that we begin with our warm up. Okay, so as you can see, warm up. We have our foam rolling, our mobility, and then our stability work. Okay, and stop me if you have any questions. But the way this works is the foam rolling is the same. I just included it all in this section. Okay, and so we do each of the foam rolling drills: side of the leg, front of the leg, arms and butt with a roller. And then with the ball, we do the front and back of the shoulder, and that's one you were interested in, so I added that. And we don't have to do all of these at the beginning. If time is, if time is lacking, then just, jump through that part. If we do have time, though, if, we have 5 minutes before class, or, people are not showing up late, then we do that. That's an optional thing, though, based upon our time. Our mandatories are our mobility, okay? Now with mobility, we have, basically, I included 3 levels. The top level, level 3, is what most people are gonna do. So the normal squat to stand, the normal inchworm where the hands are on the ground, the normal split squat. I also added a lateral squat back in. But let's say we have a client that can't put their hands on the ground, okay? Or can't get their hands down to their ankles. So instead they put their hands on a chair or their hands on a box. So the level 1 is just a regression from level 3. Okay, does that make sense?
Right.
Right, and then level 2, they could hold a ball. And those are just suggestions. I mean, you can regress it really in other ways, but that's just how I would do it. Okay, and that way, you have a cue to give them. And so again, with the inchworm, rather than having their hands on the ground, they could move back and put their hands on a chair, or they could just do like a downward dog, which is, a less complicated version of the inchworm. So with each one of those, you're going to have a progression. You're going to have the kind of the level where they are, and then you're going to have 2 levels beforehand, so regressions. Now our stability work is, again, going to be the same. I added in a couple, and I'm going to do a new video of our warm-up so we know what this is. But our warm-up, our stability is glute bridge, leg lowering, plank, bird dog, and prone tees, okay? And again, we just have a progression and a regression. And I eliminated the prehab section from our old template because this is prehab. So we just go through one set of 30 seconds with this. It'll take about the same amount of time, so that's the way that works. And again, for rolling, 30 seconds, for mobility and stability, 30 seconds per area, okay? We can streamline this as we go along. Now for the template, we have day 1, day 2, and day 3.
Meaning Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Correct, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
And then we have our sets and reps, okay? So like for day 1, we have circuit 1, 4 sets to 60 seconds. Circuit 2, actually, why I put that there? I wonder, I didn't delete that. Circuit 2, which is 8 to 12 reps for 8 to 12 minutes, and then circuit 3, 8 to 12 reps for 8 to 12 minutes. And what I say is, like, if we have time left after circuit 1 and 2, then just revert back to circuit 1 and do an easier version of like the burpee or something like that. Finish with that. And so the way it works with day 1 is that we have 1A and 1B. Okay, 1A is the first exercise, 1B is the second exercise. So AB. All right.
And you do those for
60 seconds.
60 seconds.
Right.
So 4 sets of just those 2.
Correct. 1A and 1B correlate to circuit 1.
Gotcha.
Okay. So like 1A, usually the hardest version is going to be at the bottom. So a jump from the floor jump. Okay. The regression would be a floor sprawl. So we eliminate the jump. Regression from there would be elevated jump where they put their hands on a box. And then the easiest version would be an elevated sprawl where we just eliminate the jump entirely.
Right.
And so you'll have people all along that spectrum. Assume the hardest level is what most of our fit clients are going to do, but then we'll have a lot of those that are not that. Okay, so again, that just gives you options. As the coach, you can write in your own regressions based upon what you see, but this way, whoever's writing the program, they need to be able to see, these are the options because, and the coaches need to know that. Now with floor slide, we just have floor is the easiest version where they're on their back. Seated is going to be a little bit harder. Standing is going to be the hardest. Okay, and so that's.
Now when you say standing, you mean like against the wall or just?
I do. Yep, standing against the wall. That's right. So I can even put actually back on wall, like that. Now, so we move on to B. Okay, circuit B. We have 2A, 2B, and 2C. Okay, so we have 3 exercises for that. Okay, so for the T push-up, we have feet elevated push-up is going to be the hardest. Floor push-up, hands elevated on a box, so I can put hands elevated. And then rotates only, meaning they're not doing push-ups, they're just rotating, correct. Kettlebell deadlift, again, on the floor, off of a box, or frog squat, okay, which is just body weight, or I could just put body weight. And then leg lowering, which is a filler exercise. So they can do it. Yeah, they can do it holding their leg. They can do it while holding like a kettlebell because that'll turn their core on. That'll make it a little bit easier, or a little bit harder. And then they can do it without holding on to anything, which is going to be the hardest. Okay,
so
again,
basically the leg lowering is just them dropping the legs?
Correct, raising up and down. And again, I don't have to explain all of these. Like as the coach, we'll actually, we'll post videos of these in the future for our coaches, but the bottom line is it's just this circuit structure is the same all the time. So 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 2C. So circuit 2 has 3, circuit 3 has 3. Okay. It's just done in different formats. Okay. And so again, that's the whole idea. The reason I put it this way is we have the regressions and the progressions, and that's going to be important because again, we're dealing with all different types of people. So, so it might look confusing in the beginning, but the circuit remains the same. The only difference on day 2 is that we have a left side and a right side mobility drill. Okay, so the arm sweep is like, you know, it's still 60 seconds, but it's just 30 seconds per side, if that makes sense. So we have an L drill for, 40 seconds on this day. An L drill is an L drill is just an example, basically. So
like I know what a T drill is.
An L drill is just where they run in an L. They just physically run from one cone in an L and come back.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's.
Overthinking.
No worries. But that's how that works. We have a 1A, again 1B, and then 1C is just the other side. Okay. So I can even just put 1B left plus right. Oops. 1B. And then, you change it to 30-second mark. So that's the way that works. And again, for that, they can either do it lying on the back, which is easier, and the side lying is going to be harder. Now, same thing for this. The only difference on day 2 is that day 2 is an interval day. Okay? So interval day, we have 2 to 3 sets of 40 seconds for each circuit. Again, and then you go back to the finisher if we get to the ends. So same format. We still have 3 exercises: inverted row, goblet squat, leg lowering, and then 3A, one arm push press. And if you see something like this, it's only on one arm, then we would do 30 seconds for each side. Okay, so just default to that idea. Single leg hip lift, again, 30 seconds for each side. Side plank, again, 30 seconds for each side. So in reality, that circuit may take a little bit longer. Okay, and then we have our final circuit, day 3. Again, same format, wall ball shot, floor slide. Okay. And the way day 3 works actually is that day 3 we mixed it up. So like day 3 on weeks 1 and 3 are going to be more. Should I flip that? Going to be more interval based. Whereas weeks 2 and 4 they're going to be more density based. So that's the difference between like a timed circuit on day 1 and an interval on day 2. So I flipped the format up, if that makes sense, just to make it more interesting, so people don't feel like they're doing the same thing. So today it's interval based, right? So we have a tall curl to press, a kettlebell swing, and leg lowering. And again, that's for 2A is 5 sets of 30 seconds. And then 2B or circuit 2 is 2 sets of 40 seconds. But again, 3A, 3B, 3C, 2A, 2B, 2C. Okay, and again, you have your progressions and your regressions. Now, do you have any questions based upon that? And then, at the bottom, and I'm doing this for our new coaches too, we have our exercise modifications, okay? And so again, I gave you progressions and regressions, but this gives you an idea of like for knee pain, okay? Let's say somebody's doing a lunge. These are some of the common exercises that we see that will hurt in people with those issues. So if somebody's doing a lunge, we substitute one of these exercises instead, okay? And so we could do a reverse lunge, and it's a pass or fail. Does it hurt or not? Have them try reverse lunge if that hurts. Have them try a deadlift, a swing, or a bridge, okay? And just kind of look at it that way. For a squat.
Is it in that progression from hardest to easiest?
Yeah, pretty much. For a squat, it's the same thing. Squat back to box or sit down. Meaning they sit physically down in a box, and it's the same thing. And so I would start with these progression or regressions first, and then if they can't do that at all, just sub the exercise. Sub it for another lower body exercise that doesn't hurt, or sub it for an upper body exercise. Okay. With back pain, again, similar idea. We have these exercises that can potentially hurt. We just sub them with something else instead. And these are, like deadlifting and kettlebell swings. It's a strength exercise. Whereas at the bottom here, running, which is something that's commonly going to hurt with back pain, we can use a cycle or a treadmill push, which are two things that we commonly do. Our last one is going to be upper body pain. And so, we're looking at primarily upper body exercises, overhead pressing, push-ups, wall ball shots, band pull downs, burpees. And again, we just try to make these subs, okay, based upon what you see. Again, you're always going to have to do different things, kind of based upon what is actually happening, but those will give you a place to start, and that's the entire idea. So just kind of refer to exercise modifications for the client if something is hurting, okay? And so that's the template. Now, based upon that, do you have any questions?
So for example, the substitution for the overhead press.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a full push.
Yes.
So a band press is more horizontal push. So it keeps the tension on the
Correct.
shoulder without.
Correct. That's right. And that's one thing that's one thing to consider with overhead pressing is that usually if the person can't get their arms overhead, the pressing is going to be an issue. So we want to do a horizontal press instead. That would be the first place to start. That plane of motion usually not as painful. Mm-hmm. And then if we do have that problem continuing, we just move to a pulling exercise. Okay. And generally the safest exercise you're going to do are in horizontal movement. It's not overhead. That puts the shoulder in a less provocative position.
So how do we progress a client that can't do an overhead press? How do we get them there?
In boot camp, you don't. You just do what doesn't hurt. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean, I think I'm going to round out with that for this video is that the idea with boot camp is that we do no harm. So, right. We want to push our clients to their limit, but by the same token, we're going to have a lot of people, and I've learned this through experience, that simply can't do things, right? And to think that in a large group setting, it's going to be a lot harder to progress them to a point where they can, especially when it's something like an orthopedic inflexibility, like not being able to get their arms overhead or something like that. What I'd say is if all else fails, and that's a big problem, then sub like a overhead press for a mobility drill, that same category. So like a wall slide for an overhead press. Right. If you want to help them get their arms overhead better, that would be the way to do it. Okay, but that's the last step. I mean, this is a boot camp. We want to keep them moving around. So, again, just try to make subs that are not going to hurt. I mean, that's our main thing. So, again, be smart. Don't worry so much about getting somebody into a place where they can't physically go. That's more for a small group or personal training situation. We just want to make sure that they're not hurting, and again, if that really is a concern, or mobility is something that they want to work on, in particular, then we can sub a mobility drill for that. So that would be my feedback. Okay. And this is Chris Kelly signing out.